defenders, they shiver. Goalkeepers nervous, strikers, they'll deliver. Crowd.
It seems Chelsea are set for a busy transfer window. But that's not surprising. It's been busy, always been busy since Clear Lake and Todd Bowley, Egbali, Feliciano, and the rest took over Chelsea. Every window has been busy, lots of money spent, hundreds of millions of pounds spent. Now it's gone over 1.5 billion thereabouts spent so far on transfers. So this window is set to be busy again. Now, for me, what has been my issue with Chelsea transfer window has been how the money has been spent, what the money has been used to buy, what players, has the money been spent on. So, in today's video, I'll be talking about, giving my opinion on different transfer sort of news. The Huijsen proposed transfer to Chelsea, that Chelsea are ready to trigger his release clause. Talking about Jorel Hato, talking about Victor Osimhen and other striking options, and as well as players that are out on loan that have already been signed, that signed and have gone out on loan, what their fate is or would be at the club. I'll be giving my own opinion, really. I'd like to know what your thoughts and opinions are on these various transfer news items. So, first off, Dean Huijsen, £50 million release clause. There are rumours, obviously nothing concrete, about Chelsea open to triggering that release clause. Now, this is how I see things. He is a young defender. He has been impressive for Bournemouth, and so obviously right to attract interest from other clubs. But first thing I want to say, is this the sort of target Chelsea should be prioritizing at the minute? Because let's face it, you've got, of course, Cucurella as a left back, you've got Malo Gusto, you've got Rich James, you've got Levi Colwill, in centre back position. So is he really the one? And you've got Fofana as well, though Fofana, gets injured more often than not. So, but is Huijsen the actual target you should be going for? Not that he's not a good player. He is a good player. Is he the target that Chelsea should be going for? Then if the answer is yes, then that means that a lot of players will be sold. So the likes of Badiashile, for me, I think he should be gone. Should have been gone this January, in my opinion. The likes of Disasi as well, currently on loan at Aston Villa, I think he should be gone as well. And then Colwill hasn't really been that. He's been okay passing the ball out of the back. He's been okay, but he hasn't been, this masterful defender a lot of fans are trying to make him out to be. So for me, okay, so if you indeed will sell these defenders, then that opens up, the door for maybe Dean Huijsen. But then again, we go on to talk about his experience. That's something we should talk about. A lot of times when you talk about these young players that Chelsea are signing, or this 19-year-old, this 18-year-old, this 20-year-old, each time someone like me raises up the question of their lack of experience, people say, oh, don't let them play, but they're good enough. And then when the season starts and we begin to notice, their failings as a result of their lack of experience or their inexperience, then people begin to make excuses and say, oh, they're young, they're 19 years old, don't you know they're young? Now, I've been saying, this is my opinion. If you are going to allow an 18-year-old, 19-year-old take the spot of a mortgage-paying, adult in the defense, then that means that 18-year-old has got to be the business, has got to be the man. There's got to be a Lamine Yamal level performer. Obviously not in the skill set because you're talking about the defense, but you should be talking about that guy who is able to come in and perform brilliantly instantly. There's no need, you shouldn't be giving any excuse. Oh, he's 19, he's 18, because you're signing him to take the spot of an experienced defender. So if you're signing Dean Huijsen, 50 million pounds, then you must see him as someone that's coming to perform day one. If you're not giving any Cobham graduate opportunity and you're giving him that opportunity, then you should be saying day one, he is your man, he is meant to be delivering. that's how I look at it within Huijsen. And one thing people forget is when you're playing for a club like Bournemouth, due respect to them, the way teams play you is different. Teams allow you to come out from the back with the ball a lot easier than they would if you are Chelsea, if you are Manchester United, if you are Liverpool. Don't get me wrong, you still will be under pressure, but you wouldn't be as under as much pressure as you would be at Chelsea. And let's not forget, he struggled at Juventus. Now he's come to Bournemouth, he's come to the Premier League and shown that yes, I can perform at the Premier League level, but can he perform for a top 6 side? That's a question that's left to be answered. So if now, rather than going for a Jonathan Tah or a more experienced, any other more experienced centre back, you're choosing to go for Edin Huijsen, then you're saying we see you at the same level as that 29-year-old, as that 26-year-old experienced centre back. Because let's not forget, we're heading into, is this not the 4th year of the Todd Bowley-led group? This should be the 4th year, going into the 4th year. So you shouldn't be thinking about, oh, we are building this project while Liverpool is going ahead of you, Arsenal is going ahead of you. Of course, Manchester City has been ahead of Chelsea for for several years now. So you can't just be doing that now. You can't be doing that. So for me, if Dean Huijsen is the guy, Chelsea will be willing to pay that £50 million by clause, fair dues. Let's see how it comes into perform. And then when I talk about profile, we know why Chelsea at this point are struggling to qualify for the Champions League, are struggling to get into that Champions League spot. We know why. The defense hasn't been great, I agree, hands up, I admit that. But the main reason has been the lack of a striker, the lack of a prolific striker that would give you, 20, 25 goals easy. And Nicholas Jackson has gone on a run now, and probably he'll get you another 14, 15 goals maybe for the season. And everyone will be like, wow, Nicholas Jackson has scored. Look at the goals he scored. He's improving. Next season, we forget that's what he did last year. But back to the point, the main issue is the main position where Chelsea has really lacked is that striking position, that number 9 position. So you're going to sign a defender spending 50 million on a 19-year-old, and then we're having Gerald Hato as well. You want to spend another 40 million, that's 90 million gone. Yeah, that's 90 million pounds already gone on 2 teenagers. And don't forget, you already have Cucurella ahead of Gerald Hato if he's indeed signed. So for me, my take on this is this. Why not give Ishi Samuel Smith that opportunity, since Cucurella is already performing at the top level already? So Samuel Smith comes in and becomes the second guy in that left back spot. And why am I saying this? I'm not saying Gerald Hato isn't a good defender. I'm not saying he is not better than Samuel Smith. But what I'm saying is this: if spending the money, if the way the club wants to spend the money is this way, you're spending 90 million on two 19-year-old defenders, if that prevents you from going out to sign a real top-class striker, then don't do it. If spend that much money, on these players means that when it gets to the point of signing a striker, rather than going to sign the likes of Victor Osimhen, you say, no, we don't have that much money. I would rather spend 30 million on a player that probably will be earning, 30 or 40 million pounds, and we'll bring him in and hope that he performs well. If that's what the club wants to do, if you have limitation of funds, if there's a limit to what you can spend as Chelsea Football Club, then you shouldn't be spending 90 million pounds on 2 young players that will come in. And let's know this: few games into the season, 2025-2026 season, there'll be the talk of, they need time, that young players, he's 19, he's 18, whatever, they need time, to bed in, to get used to playing for Chelsea, to perform at top level, their kids, and all that. And then you haven't got a striker. But if you have all the money, if you have another £1 billion to spend, and in spending that £1 billion, you can still remain within PSR, then fine. Go on, sign all the 18-year-old defenders you want, but so far as you take care of that particular need. And for me, what has made this, more worrying for me is it's been obvious now for 3 years now that Chelsea has needed a striker. It's been clear. It's been clear. Fofana was signed. We are all hyped because the young player, Ivory Coast, new DJ Dogba, blah, 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 blah. He wasn't even used for whatever reason. Maybe he wasn't seen as an established striker, and Graham Potter didn't use him. Even at then, you knew you needed to sign a striker. Got Nicholas Jackson, who we all know is not an out-and-out prototypical striker. You know that for sure. You know. But what happened? You didn't sign a striker. You stuck with Nicholas Jackson. Fair play. Okay. The next season came around, and he struggled. He didn't play very well, and you still stuck with him. You didn't sign any out-and-out striker. Then went to the season under Pochettino. He scored about 14 or 15 goals in all competitions, mind you. And then you refused to sign a striker still. This transfer window, you played around with Victor Osimhen when you know what you should do. And the thing is, people believe the PR way too much. Because, Victor Osimhen is so greedy, he's requesting for too much money. But if you calm down and look at what other strikers are earning, look at what even other players like your Harry Maguire is earning, you would know. You'd know he's not asking for that crazy money. You and I, that is crazy money. For you and I, that money, £10 million, I think after tax, is crazy money, for sure. But look at what Maguire is earning, 9.8 million. Harry Kane is 20 plus million euros. Lewandowski, 33 million euros. Then you will see that this is just what footballers earn. And to get the top performers, you can't be paying them £100,000. Once again, for you and me, £100,000 is mad money. It's crazy money, for sure, 1,000%. But you can't be expecting to get a top player and expecting him to earn £100,000, £8,000. It just isn't going to happen. It just isn't going to happen. So my final take on signing of these defenders. If the money is there, if money isn't an option for Chelsea Football Club, if you're still able to go into the transfer market, you sign your Victor Osimhen, for instance, then fine, go ahead, spend more money on players. There's talk of this Franco, is it Master Tuno? I know I butchered his name. I'll just say Franco of River Plate. Talk of triggering his release clause. That's another 45 or about million euros. So that should be 41, 42 million pounds. What would you do with all these players? You've got Kendry already. You've got Estêvão Willian already. So why would you now want to go and trigger that buyout clause? And where would he play? And don't forget that Chelsea has just one, or rather, not even Chelsea. Blueco has only one more club, which is Strasbourg. It's just the only club that Chelsea, have. It's Strasbourg. That's the only club Chelsea has at this minute. So there are only two clubs in the so-called multi-club network. And that means you have limitations as to how many players you can sign and loan out to these clubs. So for me, now, except like I said, Huijsen, Hato, the same thing. If you've got the money to sign players in the areas of need, then fine. Then I'm good with it. Then I'm good with it. And then we go to Victor Osimhen. Now we're talking about, so there have been different talks about, his wages that has come up again, talked about, triggering his release clause. So I wonder why clubs now are getting a bit, would I say agitated about triggering his release clause? I wonder why Chelsea now are having an issue with triggering that release clause. It used to be £100 million. It's crazy money. It's too much. If it could be reduced, now it's 75 billion euros. What are you doing? So that's the 60 or thereabout. So what are you doing? And then you have the talk of Chelsea being, willing to commit £60 million to sign in Oli Watkins. Now, while I will admit Oli Watkins is a better striker than Nicholas Jackson when you talk about an out-and-out striker, but is he better than a Victor Osimhen? No. Does he give you can he do as many things on the pitch as Victor Osimhen can do in terms of pressing, in terms of holding up play? Now, Oli Watkins is at his best when he can run in behind. That's when he's at his best. At his best, running behind a defense, playing on the last shoulder of the opposing defense. I think that's where he is at his best. Now, if come the end of the transfer window, unable to sign Victor Osimhen for whatever reason, he's gone to Saudi or some other club has beat Chelsea to the punch, in a desperate move, I would accept and only Watkins because I know he's better than what Chelsea have at the minute. And then he also comes with more experience. But if you're going striker for striker, you're looking at both of them. I don't think he's better than Victor Osimhen. And they're not even in the same league. And then when you look at what he's earning now, he's not going to take 150. You're going to have to hit that £200,000 mark to get an Oli Watkins to sign for you, especially knowing that there's always the English tax. Once you're an English player and you're of any sort of quality, you have the premium on you. That's one. Secondly, you also know clubs like Arsenal have had their eyes on Oli Watkins as well. So for me, if the wage requirements, if the transfer fee requirements are that close, for me, I would go with the better striker, who, in my opinion, is Victor Osimhen. I know some people talk about Sesko, good player. He scored in RB Leipzig's game versus Bayern Munich. The game ended up being a 3-3 draw in the Bundesliga. If people talk of Sesko, the same issue about age comes in. Now, for me, if this was the first transfer window or maybe the second transfer window of this Clear Lake capital-led ownership, I would say that's fine. He can come in, young player, develop with the rest of the team. And we know we're in the second window of this ownership, still have 3-4 years ahead. But now, this is not the first, it's not the second. This should be this should be the fifth now, because January was the fifth window. So January was the fifth window. This should be the sixth window you're heading into now. You should not be going for a player that is not proven, one. Secondly, that you have to make this excuse about, he needs time. No. If you're signing a Sesko, I get he has the physical attributes. He's 6'5", so he's a giant of a player. He's got all the physical attributes. But then again, the question of experience comes in. The question of leadership comes in. Because that's something people have been talking about. Maresca has alluded to it as well, that leadership on the pitch. Leadership on the pitch. He can give all the instructions he wants. He can give, from the bench. He can. You have a captain that's on the pitch, but you need leaders on the pitch, like Chelsea used to have. Didier Drogba was a leader even without the captain and band. Lampard was a leader without the captain and band. So you need those sort of players on the pitch. So those sort of question marks, again, you have that for Benjamin Sesko. So once again, I'll say this: if it comes to the point where Victor Osimhen is off the market, he's been sold to Saudi by Napoli, to a Saudi club by Napoli, or he's gone to a different club in the Premier League or Spanish La Liga, whereby for whatever reason Chelsea is unable to get him, then in Sesko, I wouldn't be mad at it, because I think in terms of an out-and-out striker, he is better than Nicholas Jackson, in my opinion. That's the way I see it. Because what people don't get is sometimes you see a striker score a tap-in. It's a tap-in matching. It's a tap-in matching. That's all he does, scores tap-ins. But people forget the intelligence it takes to outsmart a centre-back and get into that position and convert those chances and score those tap-ins that you see. So the instinct of a number 9 is different. Their ball striking technique, how they keep their body shape when they take a shot, is different. And we've seen this season, good passes. Nicholas Jackson, for whatever reason, skies the ball into the skies. Now, for me, if you sign a Sesko, if you sign a Watkins, if you sign a Victor Osimhen, and Nicholas Jackson ups his performance level 4 or 5 times, like Drogba used to do, when Shevchenko came in, when Torres came in, take your performance level 4 or 5 times high, and you're able to keep a striker in the caliber of Victor Osimhen on the bench, a striker with the potential of Sesko on the bench, because you're scoring those goals. Beautiful. Good on you. You're scoring those goals. You've met, you've stepped up to the challenge. But if you want Chelsea Football Club wants to have the mindset of, we don't want to impede on Nicholas Jackson's development. We will sign any striker so Nicholas Jackson doesn't get scared. He doesn't get cold, doesn't have the shivers. So we will not sign any top-rated striker. We believe so much in him, and he will just play without any competition. Then I'll just know that this group are not willing and not ready for Chelsea to compete. That's it. Look at any top club. You always have multiple options, multiple top-level options for each position. And I think part of the reason why Man City are struggling at this minute is because they sold Julian Alvarez, someone who maybe you say Erling Haaland is better than he is, but you always know that if he comes off the bench, he will deliver. If he comes off the bench, he was of the level where, while you say Erling Haaland was better than he is, and he's better than he is, you could say, okay, this is a guy that could legitimately take Erling Haaland's spot if he drops his performance levels. And I think that's one of the reasons, in addition to the fact that I think they have fatigue where they've won everything and they lack motivation going into the season. So I think the same thing of Nicholas Jackson. For me, my number 1 target is Victor Osimhen. I'm not going to shy away from it. My number 1 target is Victor Osimhen because of what he brings to the table. People don't get it. I've seen a lot of videos. I've watched a lot of videos where people just say whatever comes to their mind, whatever comes to their mouth, they just say it. Some say he doesn't press. Really though? Have you watched him play? Some say the only thing he does is to finish with his head. Are you serious? Are you really serious? Or you just want to say something controversial and get people clicking, people say, and react to what you've said? Because for me, he is that top level striker you need. He gives you leadership on the pitch. He gives you plus his qualities, his pace, his pressing, his aggression. He's that person that can drag the whole team behind him. There's some reports saying Chelsea are prioritizing signing Victor Osimhen, which is good news to me. But then they go on to the other side to say, but they're open to signing Oli Watkins for £60 million if that falls through. Now, once again, if this was last season where Victor Osimhen's release clause was still about £100 million, then I would say, okay, Oli Watkins is 60, 100, maybe it's something financial they're looking at. But when his release clause, buyer clause is 75 million euros, so that's about 60-ish million pounds, then I don't get why that is. But the point is, Victor Osimhen gives you a lot on the pitch that Jackson just doesn't give you, that other strikers, to be fair, can't give you. I'm telling you, can't give you. Because even in this moment, if you sign Harry Kane is a better striker in terms of finishing. If you can finish better than a Victor Osimhen. But when it comes to the physical aspect, the high press, going, pressing, high pressing the defenders, we know Harry Kane can give you that. He cannot. And something else that Victor Osimhen gives you is this hopeful ball. Because with the Nicholas Jackson, the ball has to be perfect. Perfect true pass, he latches onto it, scores. Sometimes when the ball comes to the box, he doesn't really have the awareness. But a Nicholas Jackson, a Victor Osimhen gives you this whole football. You'll be impressed so much, you just play whole football, and you know with his pace, with his strength, he'll be able to get that ball, hold it up for a bit, and bring his teammates into play. And then his inbox awareness is top level, elite world class level. That's clear. So Chelsea said to have a busy transfer window. Talked about strikers, talked about centre backs, talked about left backs. Looking to sign. So seems to be it's going to be a very very busy transfer window for Chelsea. So let's see how that goes. So for me, Victor Osimhen, if that back clause can be triggered, then I will be the happiest person. I'll be the happiest Chelsea fan for sure. No shame talking about it. Then we talk about Gittens. Now, Gittens is an interesting topic for me because I like some of the qualities he has. He's got that pace. He's got that ability to go both ways when he's on the ball, dribble, go cutting on his right, dribble going out on his left. So I see the attraction there. But my thing still boils down to this, because the striking position is so important for me. I've seen time and time again where Chelsea have dominated games, created chances, and not scored. And even more importantly, in games where Chelsea haven't dominated games, but you see that gilt-edged chance, and Nicholas Jackson fluffed the lines. So for me, that striking position is so important for me. If I was Yuko, Clearlake, whatever, first person you sign is a striker. You go and sign your number one option as a number 9. Number one option, you sign him, that's striker. For me, it's Victor Osimhen. If they say it's Sesko, if they say it's Oli Watkins, whichever player they say is the number one striking option, you go and get him. For me, Victor Osimhen is the person I want, to be signed because of qualities he brings. Then when you sign a Victor Osimhen, then you can now look at other areas. Then talking about back to Gittens. Now, is it that much better than your Tyreek Judge? If Tyreek Judge has been sent on loan to Dortmund, given the amount of game time, that Gittens has been getting at Dortmund, doesn't he perform at the same level? That's just something food for thought. What do you think about? Doesn't he perform at that same level if he had gone on loan to Dortmund and is given that the amount of game time that Gittens has at the minute? Because he's showing that he's improving game in game, game after game, game after game. You see, he's able to perform. Even when he's played out of position by Maresca, which is something that I question, because you have a Mueka, on the bench in some of these Conference League games, and you do not use him. You don't use him. So I question it. So why are you having to play this young, exciting winger as a striker? But even then, kudos to Tyreek Judge. He's been performing as best as he can for a young player who is playing out of position. He's performing as best he can, So Gittens, that's the question. You have Sancho there already, which I'll talk about in a minute. Sancho is there already. You have your Tyreek Judge. So does that mean Tyreek Judge will be sold or maybe loaned out? Because if you have your Gittens and you have your Sancho, that is that left wing closed down. And then don't forget the fact that Noni Madueke and Pedro Neto, either one of them can play on the left wing as well, as we've seen towards the end part of the season. So that means Tyreek Judge's days will be numbered once Gittens is signed, if he is indeed signed. And I go back to this. People will say you're talking so much about it, but we just have to. I just have to. And if you're truthful as a Chelsea fan, you must talk about it, because we've seen it over the seasons. Chelsea needs to sign a striker. There's no if, buts, or maybes. You need to sign a striker, an actual out and out number 9, experienced striker. Not someone that is still coming on to learn the ropes. Not someone that is still coming on to learn how to trap a ball. How to set, how to have the right body shape when striking the ball. No, you don't want that. No more excuses of, oh, he's 19, no, he's 18. Because for me, if you're signing an 18-year-old right now, to play in the first team, then you're seeing him as an absolute wonder kid, a Lamine Yamal level type, player, that can come into the first team, playing among, men that have had years shaving, to perform, and can actually outperform them. You're not planning that player to come on and make excuses for him. That's just the way it goes, because we are late in the day right now at Chelsea, because this is no longer the first window, second window. This is, you're well into this so-called project. So that's my own issue with the Gittens signing. From a striking perspective, from ability perspective, yes, he's got the ability of, obviously, but there is other questions to ask. And then we have this thing about Modric hanging over. He's passed the lie detector test according to some reports. What happens to his sample B test? Has he come out clean? If he comes out clean, what then happens? He's on this long-term contract. So you then have a Tyreek George, Jadon Sancho, and then Mikhailo Modric. So would you now add the Gittens to that number? And especially with the likes of Estêvão Willian coming on, Kendry Paez coming on. So these are questions that you need to answer. Now, I want to talk specifically now about Jadon Sancho. Jadon Sancho, his time at Chelsea has been a mixed bag, because there's some games where he's been absolutely, wonderful and amazing from a Chelsea perspective, and there's some games where he's just been, nothing really impressive. But then again, you look at it from this perspective, that one, you look at the type of winger he is. Jadon Sancho isn't the type of winger to speed in behind a fullback. He's not. He's the winger where you play the ball to feet, and once he gets the ball at his feet, he shows he can make any defender on the planet look silly. So if you want to play this game where you want to hit quickly on the break, then he's not going to be your guy. But if you want to play possession-based football where he gets the ball quickly at his feet, then he can, work magic for you. But then again, does he have enough goals in him? I don't think so. But overall, I think he can be a very decent player for Chelsea, give Chelsea a different option. At the point I was thinking, with Cole Palmer struggling, could he do a job in that central attacking midfield position, that number 10 position? Can he do something there? Maybe he can. I think people are saying, at some point, some Chelsea fans were saying, they would like the board to defy the terms of the loan agreement, pay, the 5 million or 6 million fee, and send him back to Manchester United. So that's the question of Jadon Sancho. What would you do with Jadon Sancho? Would you have him in the team still? Would you keep him and pay 25 million pounds for him? I think that's the buy obligation to buy if Chelsea finishes above 14th, which I think was a bit tricky and nifty, a bit clever, from lawyers that put that in there. So obviously Chelsea will always finish above 14th, place on the league table. And then, Chelsea now, worst case scenario, probably finishes 6th. So what would you do with Jadon Sancho? So would you keep him? Would you let him go? So for me, I'll keep him. I'll keep Jadon Sancho. I'll keep Jadon Sancho. We have a Tyreek George there, and then Modric coming back. I'll have him there. I'll keep him in because he is something different. He's different from the other wingers that Chelsea have. He is something different. He gives something different, something exciting, I think, in that position. And he's gradually beginning to build, a relationship with, with Cucurella on that left-hand side, because they're beginning to have better chemistry, better understanding. So I think that's another reason you keep Jadon Sancho, in the team. And then moving on from Jadon Sancho, going on to talk about some players who are on loan, because there's all this talk of sign players. You have players who are on loan. What do you do with those players? For me, Andre Santos, should not be going anywhere. Once Strasbourg season is over, he comes back to Chelsea and remains there because he's too good. I know people have been excited about Lavin's performances. He's come back from his latest injury, the game he's played, everything he showed what it's about. But still, for me, the best ability is availability. Romeo Lavia is one of those frustrating cases where obviously when he comes on the pitch, he will be phenomenal. He will perform very well. But you also know that in any moment he can pick up a niggling injury. Even sometimes when he has not been on, no hard tackle, no sort of collision with any player, and the game ends relatively okay, you just know that something could come up. He could pick up a muscle strain in his hamstring or something, and he's out for another 4 weeks to 6 weeks or even more. So while he's good when he is available, I think having Andre Santos, having Leslie Gochuku, they've gone out on loan. For me, when you send players on loan, you want them to first have game time. Secondly, you want them to perform when they have game time. And Leslie Gochuku and Andre Santos have shown this. Leslie Gochuku unfortunately relegated with Southampton, but he's gone there, he's had game time, and he's performed well. Andre Santos gone to Strasbourg, he's had game time, performed superbly well, scored goals, and been a two-way player, both defensively and offensively. So he's shown you what he can do. And then you now have a Dario Esugo coming in. So for me, I still think at least a Leslie Gochuku and Andre Santos should be in team. Dario Esugo joining, I think, is welcome as well. Because we know Lavia, he may not really be always available. And then we also know Enzo Fernandez, for all this improvement towards the end part of the season, we know when it comes to the physicality, when it comes to the physical question, matching physicality on the pitch, he struggles. And I'm not saying don't start him. I'm saying you can start him, but as the game continues to go on, second half, you sometimes need to take him off because you see that decided, lack of physicality in his play, which is not to blame him. Football isn't necessarily, you don't have to be the most physical of persons to play football, and that's the beauty of the game. But sometimes you need that other option. So for me, and then you hear rumors of Enzo Fernandez interest from Real Madrid and all that. For me, I don't want him so because I think he brings something unique that I don't think every coach has really taken advantage of fully. He's someone that can help you control games better. For whatever reason, Enzo Maresca has been using him in a different sort of fashion, So I think Andre Santos should come back in for sure. Maybe Esugo goes back on loan, I don't know. But I think Dario Esugo, Andre Santos, Leslie Gochuku coming, and then Amalgo. I know Amalgo for sure who'll be heading back to Strasbourg, who'll be heading to Strasbourg to take up Andre Santos to be Andre Santos' replacement. So for me, because of one, physicality issues with Fernandez and injury concerns with Romeo Lavia, so I think Andre Santos, Dario Esugo, Leslie Gochuku should be part of this squad going forward. Going forward once the transfer window opens, once the season ends, they should come back and be part of the squad. That's how I say things. No matter what your opinions are, on all that. Now, still talking about players out on loan that will be coming back to join, the team. So you have Estêvão Willian, Kendry Paez. From all reports, they will be coming back to join Chelsea. Although Estêvão Willian, I don't know why they got to that sort of agreement, but he would have to play the World Club Cup with Palmeiras first, and then come to play and then join Chelsea afterwards. Was that part of sweetening the deal to make Palmeiras give them slightly favorable deal? I don't know. For me, I would have felt that the World Club Cup, I know it seemed to be so important. I think it's important because this is the first one and you want to be the first. Yeah, you want to be the first team to have won that tournament. You want to be the first team for sure. The first team to have won it. So it's really, really important. But then again, I think in some regards, you also want that tournament you want to use that tournament as an opportunity to give certain young players opportunity in the team and see what they can do. So out of the Estêvão Willian, should have been part of that team. So busy transfer window. I'll just recap things I've talked about earlier on. So we've talked about Chelsea's link to Dean Huijsen, the Bournemouth defender. Are they willing to trigger the £51 million buyout clause? And then the Gerald Hato as well, the Amsterdam left back that can play left centre back as well. And apparently he's very good in vetting into midfield. There's option. They're looking at there's reports that Chelsea are looking at signing him as well. £40 million. I think about that's what they're looking to pay for the player. So what are your thoughts and opinions on those? On those, for me, I've made my thoughts known. Gerald Hato is a good player, wonderful young talent. But then again, if there's a limit to what Chelsea can spend, maybe for PSR reasons or just based on the investment levels in the club's transfer window, come this summer transfer window, then that shouldn't be priority, because you have Cucurella that's performing at the top level already. He's the number one guy already. So my thought is Ishi Samuel Smith should come in behind him, because Cucurella already will play most games. And then you have Samuel Smith coming behind him. And I'm saying this because if that limitation of funds then means you can't spend on that priority area, which for me is that striking position where you cannot get it wrong. Chelsea can't afford to get that striking position wrong, that number 9 wrong. You can't afford to do it. And you must be willing to spend big to get the best option there. So if you have limitations in funds in that regard, then you shouldn't go outside Hato or Huijsen. But if you have the money, maybe £1 billion, you can sign Osimhen, for instance. You can sign an experienced center creative midfielder as well. Then okay, go on, sign Hato. Go on, sign Dean Huijsen. No worries, because for me, when you look at the defense as well, Cohen hasn't really been as good as people have claimed he's been. He hasn't really been, because one thing that he's lacked on the ball, passing the ball out, good. I give him a B+. But when it comes to awareness, offside awareness of opposition attackers, he hasn't really been great. He hasn't really been great, in my opinion. He hasn't really been great. And then for Fofana, like I said with Romelu, the best ability is availability. Fofana, he comes in, he plays 3, 4, 5 games, then he goes out injured. Not blaming him, but you also have to look at the team. How can the team benefit? How can the team progress? If Enzo Maresca wants his defenders to hold the ball and be able to progress it from deep positions, run into midfield, maybe even run a bit past midfield, and he's someone that can do that, but he's always injured, then you start looking at other options. Start looking at maybe Dean Huijsen, maybe. So for me, the point I'm making is this: if money isn't an option, like a billionaire going into a pound shop, money isn't an option. If money isn't an option, then you buy Huijsen, you buy Hato. Of course, I've been talking about Hato for a long time. So you sign it. But if your budget is strict, is tight, maybe you have only 120 million to spend, then spending more than half of it on, because that's what it will cost, 50 plus 40, that's 90. More than half your transfer budget on 2 center backs or 2 defenders wouldn't be the best option, wouldn't be a sound strategy, because given their age as well, because you're signing them in, they come in, you see he's 18, he's 19, you want to give him more time to bed him in as a youngster, but the team is suffering, and you're into the 6th transfer window under clearly capital's ownership, then that is an issue. If this was the first transfer window, then it would make a bit more sense, in my opinion. So what are your thoughts and opinions about these the reports that Chelsea are interested in getting Hato and getting Dean Huijsen as well? Look at that as well. And then we talked about the midfield. Romeo Lavia has come in and shown that he is a top class performer and possibly can be a substitute for Caicedo, or can even play alongside Caicedo, and while Enzo Fernandez sits on the bench, because I think he's a better passer he's a very good passer of the ball, and he can do two things. He can physical, he can defend better than Enzo Fernandez, and while he can't create as well as Enzo Fernandez, he's not that far off. He doesn't fall that far off from Enzo Fernandez. So when a player is able to do both, then maybe you opt for him. But then the question I raised previously is this: his injury concerns. Same thing for Fana. His injury concerns. So with his injury concerns, you have the likes of Andre Santos that have gone to Strasbourg and have passed their loan assignment with flying colors. What do you do with them? For me, bring them back in, integrate them, make them part of the team. Let Lugo Chukwu make him part of the team, because he brings something different as well in that midfield. Because while he's not a centre back, and I'm not saying he should play as a centre back, not at all. But if you want to play with a centre back, maybe you sign your June Huijsen, when Cowell does it sometimes, Fofana does it as well. You have a centre back, gets the ball and motors forward into the opposition's half. Then you need your midfielder that is able to not take out that position as a centre back, but that is able to just drop in there and be a useful body in that position. I think Leslie Gochu gives you that, and it gives you the ability to control the game a bit. So I think Andre Santos, Leslie Gochu should be brought back into the team, and then you have Dario Esugo coming in, and I think Amalgo going back to friendly gone to join Strasbourg. So what are your thoughts and opinions, on that bit? And then other loan players, Kendry Paez, Estêvão Willian, what do you do with them? Where do you even play them? But Estêvão Willian's agent, and I think there have been some quotes that have been attributed to Estêvão Willian, which have been to the effect that Chelsea were the only club that saw him as a 10. Now, if that's the case, do you see him taking the spot of Palmer in some games? I think for his development, the way I look at it, for his development and his confidence, I think he will be better suited to play as either a left winger or right winger, especially as a left winger. And obviously, I don't see him instantly taking the spot of a Madueke, for instance. I see him, he should be coming off the bench as an impact substitute. And then this flows to rumored links linking Chelsea to Bino Gittens. Now, you already have Jadon Sancho on that left. Pedro Neto can play on that left. For me, I think he should play on that left wing. You have Tyreek George already that has been improving game in, game out. Game after game, he shows improvement. So, are you going to sign Bino Gittens as the fourth left winger? Does that mean now you sell the Sancho to Dortmund maybe to sweeten the deal? Or are you going to loan out Tyreek George or sell him outrightly, with an option, with the buyback option, just so you get Bino Gittens? Or you give Tyreek George another year to show you that, okay, he can build on his improvement this year. You have Sancho there, you have Neto there. Because for me, the main problem, I'll say this again, the main issue with Chelsea for the past 3 seasons has been the lack of a striker. It's been clear. The lack of an efficient goal-getting striker. Because we can argue that Nicholas Jackson is a striker, but is he that guy when you need a goal? Can you call him like Ghostbusters? Can you call him to say, okay, he's the guy to get you the goal? Not quite sure. I think that's the main spot. So at that left wing, what would you do with it? What would you do, with Bino Gittens? You want the club to sign him? For me, for me, he will be just like a João Felix sort of signing in this regard. For me, he should be someone you sign when you've got your striker in the building, when you've got, that experienced centre back in the building. Then, to put the bow on the transfer window, then you sign Bino Gittens. Because I don't see him as priority. Of course, when you watch his videos, you watch the games he's played, he's an exciting player. But you mustn't prioritize every exciting player if they don't meet your real area of need. That's my perspective on Bino Gittens. So I see him as someone that you sign because Chelsea made the mistake. You had Samuel Morojo, you refused to sign him. For whatever reason, you went and signed João Felix. A good player, a very good player, in my opinion. I want him to stay. But he's not a goal scorer. He's not that little goal scorer that Chelsea have needed for the past 3 seasons now. And a bit more. So he's never been that kind of player. He can play off a striker, but he's not that number 9 guy. So João Felix has gone on loan, mixed bag. So switching over to players that have been players on loan. I think João Felix, possibly Chelsea could sell him. I think he's a very good player, and when he's been played in those center positions, he's played well, in my opinion. But look at what the club needs. If Estêvão Willian is coming back, if Kendry Paez is really coming back to the part of integrated as part of the squad, and then you have a Cole Palmer already, would you really be looking at João Felix? Because would you still have more room? Would you still have room for João Felix? If you have Estêvão Willian, Kendry Paez, Cole Palmer already, would you have room for him? So that's that. So he's another kind of player that, good player, but wrong profile of player to sign at the time he was signed, because we all knew at that point the main area of priority was the striker. And I don't want Chelsea to fall into that sort of error or mistake again this season. Now, I want to know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section. And then let's go on to players that could be on their way out. For me, Trevoh Chalobah is one of them. I think he could very well be on his way out. I think he went out on loan to Crystal Palace, was decent there in that 3 at the back formation. I think that's a formation that suits him. 3 at the back, you are the right side of a 3-man centre back defense. You can really thrive there. So I think he can be on his way as well. If you're going to sign a Huijsen, or you're going to sign a Hato, and who knows with Maresca, if he decides that if Hato comes in, he's going to play him, as a left centre back, one of those things. So who knows? So I think Chalobah is someone that could go. I think his comeback and has been decent with Chelsea. And he's one of the reasons I want Chelsea to win this Conference League. Chelsea wins. Obviously, let the club win the Conference League and be happy, that we've actually won something this season. And then he knows that as a Chelsea, someone's come from Chelsea Academy, he's won something. But come the end of the season, I think Trevoh Chalobah could be out, and I wouldn't really shed any tears if he does leave, because I think he needs to go somewhere where he can, play consistently, play regular football, and I don't think that would be at Chelsea. So if he goes, that's good. And then talking about Kenan Dewsbury-Hall. Kenan Dewsbury-Hall, for me, he was meant to be the Maresca whisperer, the guy that understands how Maresca wants to play, the guy that would that would glean from Maresca's wisdom and come onto the pitch and tell the players this is where he wants you to be, this is where the gaffer wants you to be, this is the position kind of runs the boss wants you to make. But he just hasn't even had game time in the first instance, for you to now say, yeah, he's the guy to lead the team in that regard, the tactical leader on the pitch. No. And he's had way too many errors in his game, from my opinion. In the Conference League, he's been gold. Don't get me wrong, Conference League, he's been gold. But each time he's had opportunity to play in the Premier League, he hasn't been too great. And now, maybe one argument you can make in his favor as either defense or excuse is that he hasn't had that many minutes to play. Possibly that has affected his confidence, and maybe even affects how he plays on the day, knowing there's nothing that he does that will see him play, in the next Premier League game. So, because when your brain is messed psychologically, when you have that psychological block in your brain, then you just know that it affects your performance on the pitch as well. That 100% it does. So for me, he should be someone that probably maybe Brighton, would they come back in for him again? Because if you remember, Brighton were in for him for a signature. They were in for him, looking to sign him, and then Chelsea stole Dewsbury Hall from them. Can you imagine? Because for me, when people say Chelsea are stealing copying the homework of Brighton, I said no. Chelsea are not copying the homework of Brighton. Right now, they're stealing the book of Brighton. Wanting to sign the kind of players that Brighton signs, that means you're actually stealing their homework book as opposed to copying their homework. So for me, I think he should leave. Maybe Brighton comes in for him again. Dewsbury Hall wins maybe the Conference League with Chelsea, and then go and join Brighton. Then we have to talk about our player that could leave. We must talk about Christopher Nkunku. So sad, Christopher Nkunku. Christopher Nkunku was meant to be that guy. He was signed and then was out for a long while with injuries. And then even under Pochettino, we saw glimpses of what he could do. And then Maresca came on. Maresca was signed. And the way Maresca used him during the preseason, we're like, yeah, Maresca gets it. He sees what he can do. He's playing him in that rightful position behind, the striker. Playing the 210s, 2.8s, 2.8.5s. Look at how he's playing so well. And then come beginning of the season, Maresca says, you know what? I've seen where you can play, but I'll play out of position. And that's where the struggle started, because right now he doesn't feel like he's part of the team, because Maresca keeps playing him in wrong positions. And I think his confidence right now is gone. Wrong position and limited game time. There are some games he's played 5 minutes. I think that really affected his confidence. Now, from a fan's perspective, you want every player to be ready. Whether you have 5 minutes to play, you want that player to come on the pitch and absolutely bust the midfield, bust the attack, score goals, score hat-tricks in that 5 minutes. And then if you get to play 20 minutes in the next game, you score 2 more hat-tricks and you just rip everything up. But sometimes when your mind has been messed with so much, so badly, then you just switch off. And I think that's what has happened to Nkunku, unfortunately. I think he's just switched off. He's just like, okay, I need to go. I don't think I can, have an impact here in this league. And I think that's what it's come to for Nkunku. So I think he should go as well. He should be one that should be sold. Maybe if Bayern Munich comes in again for him, maybe RB Leipzig they're coming for him just like they came in for Timo Werner. Maybe they come in for Christopher Nkunku, or maybe does he go back home to Paris? Go back home to Paris Saint-Germain? Maybe he goes there and becomes, a backup, or maybe some sort of competition for Ousmane Dembele. Maybe that can happen. But overall, I think he should leave. I really liked what he brought. What I like what he brings to games. I like what I saw in preseason. I like what I used to see for RB Leipzig. But I think his confidence has absolutely been shattered, and Enzo Maresca is a key reason why that confidence is gone. Now, from a fan's perspective, you want the player to be able to motivate themselves. You want the player to, even if I have 2 minutes, I come on and I show what I can do. But right now, I just think it's time to part ways. Now, the next person I'm going to talk about, for sure, I'm sure you know, I've talked about it so many times. Benoit Badiashile. For me, he's never really been impressed. I've never really been impressed by Badiashile. I've never really been impressed by him. The way he plays so slow, he looks so scared on the ball. Some people make excuses for him. You may say he's young again, all that. But for me, Benoit Badiashile, BB, should be gone. He should leave Chelsea. I think he should go somewhere else. Maybe he goes to Monaco, reignite his career. Maybe he's joined by Disasi as well, who is another one. I think Disasi is a better defender than Badiashile. I think he's a better passer of the ball than Badiashile. And he looks more up for it than Badiashile. But the problem that Disasi has had is how coaches have used him. You play him as this wide right centre-back thing where he's at the touchline, like some sort of weird hybrid of a right back and a centre-back. He's going to struggle. 100%. He will struggle. Where he can shine is if you play him as a prototypical, traditional, orthodox, central centre-back. he will perform very well for you there. But the way Enzo Maresca wants to play, he wants to play high line, he wants to play high pressing, he wants center defenders that can, play in a high line, he wants center defenders that can march out of the defense with the ball. Then he's just not your guy. Then if that's what you want in Sassi, he's not your guy. And once he comes back from his loan, I think the club and his agent should work on ways to get him out. Same to Bradley Shield. Bradley Shield for me is just not good enough. He's coming. He's had 2 seasons now thereabout. I don't think he's good enough. I think he should leave. He should leave. And then there's a question that would come up. For me, I don't want this player to leave, but the way he's been used again by Maresca could bring up those questions in his mind, and that is Malo Gusto. The way Malo Gusto has been used is just unforgivable, in my opinion. The way he has been used is just not good enough. People complain, oh, he struggled, look at how he struggled. But when you know the quality of a player, and rather than play him to his strengths, you put him in an area where he's going to struggle, and he struggles, his wickedness for you to act surprised. Wow, a right back isn't the best 8 in the world. You shouldn't be shocked. You shouldn't be shocked. Oh, wow, this right back. He's not playing so well as an 8. You shouldn't be shocked. Because one superpower that Malo Gusto has is ability to go two-way. 1v1 is a very good defender. Ability to motor down, offensively, defensively. Beautiful. His crosses in the box. And that's why, last season Chelsea didn't really miss Reece James because of what Malo Gusto was doing. But now Maresca decided, what? I'm going to play him out of position. I'll play him as an 8 or as a 6. That's my style of football, philosophy of football. That's what modern coaches all want to talk about, their philosophy of football. And true to form, Gusto has struggled being played out of position. So if you're a Gusto, if a PSG comes knocking, if an AC Milan comes knocking, wouldn't you consider it? You'd say, okay, we're going to play you as that traditional right back that you are. Wouldn't he consider it? And I wouldn't be shocked if he does, because he has been played out of position. Some fans are on his back calling him fraud and all that, the nice language you like to use to describe players. But he's been played out of position. And now he's beginning to pick up more injuries than he used to. So he's another player that could be on his way out. I don't want him to go because I know what he brings playing as an actual right back. I know what he can bring, his pace, his ability to defend, his crosses in the box. Because if I remember clearly, there was a West Ham game where he looked super terrified, super scared, the West Ham game at Stamford Bridge. There was a point where a ball was played out to him, he overlapped a bit, and almost like a scared child, he had to run back. Oh, I hope the boss doesn't bench me, sort of thing. So when you have the coach's voice messing with the player's head, and that stops the player from playing what he's naturally able to do, deliver what he's naturally able to deliver, then I think he should leave. Or he could leave. I don't want him to leave, but he could leave. So I think he's one of those people that could leave. If the right offer comes in, he could leave. And then you have, of course, Reece James is not going to go anywhere, but he too has been played out of position, being played in midfield. Now, there's this question that I would like to ask right now. I want to know what you think about it. If indeed Dario Sugo comes back in, if indeed Lavia remains fit, and if indeed Andre Santos, Leslie Gochuku, they come back into this team, do you think should Enzo Maresca still be playing Reece James in that 6th role? Because we've got actual midfielders, exciting midfielders that can play in that role, that's their natural position, and they've trained for since they were kids, and now they've grown to be young professionals. That's their role. So should Maresca still be doing this inverting business? So what are your opinions on that? So, we've talked about different topics. Want to know what you think about them. So thank you for watching. Thank you for your support so far on the channel. And I'll see you on yet another